Tonight, we recap the win at the Garden of Eden. 25 years and still counting. We dive into the Black Ferns' success with their captain. Wales are number one, so we turn the compass and look north. And Mitre 10 Cup action in the good, the bad and the ugly. All that and more on The Breakdown.
Hello and welcome to The Breakdown. Thanks for joining us. There is so much for us to discuss and debate. Of course, the response from the All Blacks, the performance once again from the Black Ferns, and plenty of Mitre 10 Cup, what's happening in the Northern Hemisphere. It's a matter of where do we start? We always start with your team. Ali Williams is with us, Sir John Kirwan, and John Plumtree joins us. Plum's, great to have you with us. Like I said, we've got so much to get through. We're not going to waste any time. 7 days ago on this show, we were looking for what the All Blacks were going to do, how they were going to respond. They came to Eden Park, the Bledisloe Cup was on the line, and they put on a virtuoso performance.
Laumapi has to make a tackle right on halfway. Corabetti frees it up for Karevi. He's got some support. Oh, they can't put him away. And Nick White has scored a brilliant try.
It bloody hurts. We've got to look in the mirror and see if we did the All Black jersey justice. 7 days is a long time in sport.
Yeah, it'll be an interesting 6 or 7 days. Looking forward to it.
Our physicality and our attitude wasn't where it needs to be.
We were below par. We got beat to the punch a bit by the Aussies. They were certainly up for the game.
The thing that interested me the most was the expressions on the All Blacks' faces. They were losing.
These guys aren't used to losing.
What a loser. There was complete and utter shock. You could see it in their faces, couldn't you?
The Australian media having an absolute frenzy. They used the Face app.
There's been a lot of things said in the media.
You know, this group is hurting. You know, it's these moments are built for us as All Blacks, and the way you're going to respond is crucial.
Came out here with absolute mindset of just making sure they dominated the game line
From the first whistle, and we just applied pressure.
It's what you do for the team, eh?
The emotion came out in every tackle. All the boys are flying in.
We're coming off the line and making big hits. The All Blacks have been more aggressive. They've hit them hard.
Just goes to show you what a bit of attitude mixed up with a bit of talent does. And
I was like, we are absolutely into it tonight.
We were inconsistent at the ruck, which is an area we were strong last week.
Retains his feet, powers through the ruck.
He has been stolen by Sabia.
And also inconsistent at the scrum.
And it's a big one too. Really good scrum.
You know, we were down to 7 men and, we did pretty well.
Again from the All Blacks. That's fantastic.
you don't put people in your team if you don't expect them to be able to play at that level.
Pass nicely for Briggs. Sails through the gap.
Posed himself on this game.
George Briggs.
Yes, boy, George Briggs. He deserves that big time.
I started building the excitement and I was pumped. He's got X Factor.
This is X Factor stuff.
Now, can he win the race? I reckon. What a try.
Yeah, it was probably the best feeling ever.
Proud of the boys, how they responded to last week.
Confidence won't be dented. Obviously, disappointment is there.
We come to that final game and we have to win it. It's just a nice feeling to be able to say, well, not on my watch.
Yes, what a performance. Congratulations to the All Blacks over the weekend. But off the back of that, Wales have officially become the top-ranked rugby side in the world after their 13-6 win over England. Now, even after the All Blacks kept Australia 2-0 over there in their game this weekend, they have been nudged off that top spot after 509 weeks on the top. Now, like it or not, somehow those are the rules, even though most of New Zealand think it's a wee bit of a joke. But someone who doesn't think it's a joke is this man.
Well, they're favourites for the World Cup now. Oh, I don't have anything else to say, mate. When you go #1 ranked, you're favourites for the World Cup.
I don't know. I mean, there'd be lots of journalists out there going, this is a joke, and, probably Kiwi journalists more than anything. So, so look, it's just a number. That's all it is at the moment. And, yeah, we won't be making a big fuss of it. So, we'll just keep it in our pocket and just go from week to week.
And Steve Hansen is also joining in on the Mind Games, adding that Wales now have that expectation heading into the World Cup. So he doesn't seem to be too worried about the ranking, guys.
It's amazing, isn't it, Steph, the reaction of Warren Gatland, the fact I don't think he even knew how it happened. He probably didn't know before the weekend.
I reckon it's ridiculous. I'm really pleased for the Wales. I love Welsh people, and they've been consistently really good. But at the end of the day, it's probably the last thing Gats wants. I mean, you see Eddie Jones, how good was he? Just deadpan. Like, you're number one, so you've got to, you know...
In World Cup, yeah, that's the last thing you want, isn't it? Exactly. Be named, ranked number one.
Well, you saw them play. You saw that game. That was a ridiculous game of football. One of the worst games I've seen all season, and then all of a sudden they come out and, in theory, they're the best team in the world.
With respect to you, Goldie, you don't have the innermost respect for tight forwards.
13-6. I don't have respect for 13-6.
What we do in the tight and how we generate and create space for you. And I think it's about time you start respecting games.
No, I think it's irrelevant anyway.
It was a great game. England and Wales playing against each other is always a great game. And the fact that they're now number one, I think it gives them the hoodoo of being the favourites. And look, the daffodil will wilter.
And your argument's irrelevant in the rankings. What annoys me is, why don't we go into the World Cup and say the last competition before the World Cup will have ranking number one versus, rather than do it a year out, because it means nothing. I reckon that Gats would have been so annoyed in getting it because everyone's just targeting him. Steve Hansen, Eddie Jones. I mean, what would you do,
that England side wasn't their best team.
No.
And it's still been ranked.
And
it's the wrong time of the year to be doing that.
And for the last 2 weekends, they weren't playing each other at full strength. It wasn't like it was a Six Nations game. And do you think maybe, does it take any pressure off Steve Hansen, though? The fact now that they aren't the number one team in the world going to this Rugby World Cup?
It won't make any difference to them. They don't even talk about that. The only thing that was on Steve Hansen's mind over the last 10 days was what happened last Saturday.
And what happens last Saturday is what we need to talk about. And it's time for our verdict on the performance of the All Blacks. And if you look at the turnaround, you're talking 57 points, 21-point hiding, then they win 36-0. JK, I'm going to come to you. Where does that, for you, leave the All Blacks right now? They've got one Test match to go, a Rugby World Cup team to announce, and in a month's time, they're kicking off at a Rugby World Cup.
Oh, it leaves the Bledisloe Cup in our cabinet, and that's a big goal. But it really doesn't change too much. You know, they had a bad week the week before. They've turned it round, and they turned it round, I believe, with some really solid kicking. You know, it was a great kicking game. Box kicks were back. Good kicking from wide with, Geordie Barrett when he came on. So for me, nothing changes. You've got a big decision to make coming up for Tonga, how you're going to play that. You've still got some big selections to make. Plums, I mean, that's the big thing, isn't it? It doesn't change too much. You probably complicated your life, you know. What are you going to do with out wide?
Explain the turnaround, though.
Well,
explain to me.
The big learning for the All Blacks out of all of this is if they don't have their attitude right, and they're going into big games, they can lose. And we know how skillful they are. We know what a talented side they are. But if the attitude's not there, you can lose. And that's a great learning for the All Blacks coming out of these last two games.
For me, in the words that they'd be using, is the difference between bone-deep preparation and skin-deep preparation. And what we mean by this is skin-deep is on the surface. It looks like you prepared. It looks like mentally you're ready for it. Bone-deep means only you know. Yeah. And Steve Hansen would have sat there and gone, if I don't get this preparation right, and guys genuinely sitting there, bone-deep preparation, we can lose this. And we can lose this to any side, because Wales is number one, Australia was world ranking number 9, and they can beat us. So in the game of rugby, which is so close now in competitive rugby, if you don't prepare properly and this thing's not switched on,
which they admitted. They admitted before the game in Perth and after the game in Perth that they didn't get it right. But what about the changes then? You look at the number of selection differences that the All Blacks make, and let's start with one of the key ones that happened in the midfield. Once they picked up an injury there with Jack Goodhue, the responsibility was with Sonny Bill Williams on the back of Mitre 10 Cup form. He comes into this, JK. How good was he, and was it enough?
Yeah, totally enough. I feel sorry for the actual Australian rugby team because they're especially their print media is turning like the English print media. You know, they put photos of all of us. I mean, that's the old photo. You know, an old photo of Sonny Bill Williams. This guy is one of our best athletes ever. He's a big game player. He knows how to win. And I thought what we needed this week was go forward, and we needed to be really accurate on defence. So their midfield, and your old mate, had a good week the week before. This week we shut them down. So, yeah, I thought he had an outstanding game, good angle, scored an important try, up 2 tackles there, double efforts. He's going.
He played to his strengths, JK. He played direct. In defence, he smashed people. He got himself in the right position. He didn't try and range too wide. He got really tight. And the other thing that I'd also mention is that it's the mark of the man. When the pressure's on him, this guy jumps in a ring. Nowhere to hide, nowhere to go. And the pressure was on him. I would suggest, Sonny, you don't play well, you're out. And that's what he would have got. And look what happened. So for me, he's a man that you've got to take. You've got to take because he knows what to do when he's under pressure.
Sorry, I think there was a few of those that got that one this week. Paddy Tuipulotu might have been another one that got the...
Well, some guys who never got the opportunity, and plums for Patrick Tuipulotu, when all of a sudden you know Brodie Retallick is not likely going to be available until early in the Rugby World Cup. He needed a big performance, and is this one of the best games you've seen him play?
I thought Paddy played really well. I mean, his job is to win collisions. That's what his job is in that position. And you saw that turnover before, you know, look at his backhand work there when he makes a tackle, he gets back to his feet. You know, look at him being a nuisance in that ruck. So that was his job. And, you know, he's big up front, he's heavy. So I think JK's right. He would have had a bit of an ultimatum that he needed a big game, and he came up with it at the right time.
And on the right side of that scrum, Nepo Lolala, he certainly did his job as well. Ali, you start talking about the fact he's coming in for a guy who's played over 100 test matches for the All Blacks, and Nepo Lolala was an anchor and damaging in this game.
Oh, big time. He got his hands on the ball, he carried the ball, but he made influential moves in that scrum. He dominated that scrum. You can see how he promoted on his right side, on the tight head. He promoted his side, which lets the halfback, you know, choose where he's going. Look at this scrum here. Squeezes down, perseveres, stays in the war, gets a turnover. That's a penalty. That's crucial.
That's just not enough anymore. And the thing I liked about him is he carried. So, Plums, you're coaching nowadays. It's the perfect scenario for Steve Hansen because he's put some pressure on the old guys like Franks. And you go, look, we might be doing the scrum one on the weekend and you look good, but if you're not carrying as well, and that's where I thought Nepo really stepped up. He said, I'm going to have great scrums, but I mean...
So all of a sudden, Owen Franks has now got some pressure, which is exactly what we wanted. So now with Nepo stepping up like that, you've got Offa coming off the bench, so there's three tight heads that, you know, can do a good job for New Zealand.
And Angus Tarvale as well. The fact that he stood up and met the mark, and the fact that his mobility around the park is just demanding that little bit more of everybody. But it wasn't all plain sailing for the All Blacks. Once again, for the second week in a row, we were reduced in men. It wasn't down for 14 due to a red card just for 10 minutes. Dane Coles, JK, suffered the fact that all of a sudden he was deemed to have broken the law. He gets time off. But I'm not sure this was justified.
Oh, I thought it was ridiculous. I said it at the time. You know, so I looked at it again because I thought, I don't think he got a clear warning. And we can have a look at it. But also, they said it was a judo throw. That wasn't a judo throw. That was more like a bushwhacker stuff, you know. And for me, just listen here. So he's in the red, but...
Black 2. Calm down now. Calm down.
So is calm down a warning? There's no penalty, right? So I'm going, well, that's not a warning, that's a calm down. And that's WWE, that's not judo, that's like...
You're close to the neck, you're giving him a throw. I've just spoken to you, stay out of it, all right?
Okay, so tell me, it's close to the neck. What's close to the neck?
I've got to take some responsibility here. I mean, that's a bit of a hard case photo. Colsey won't like that.
Are you encouraging this sort of behaviour?
Well, no, we were doing some wrestling in the pre-season, and maybe he's just forgotten that...
But close to the neck. Can you tell me what close to the neck means? Sorry, you're close to the neck. Is that close?
Yes.
Is that close?
Yes.
Well, you think about all the contacts that happened in the game, Ali. Look at that one and to so many others around the breakdowns, things that are slightly off the ball, and you get that. And you start going to yourself and you're asking the question whether or not Scott Barrett was harshly treated, and then you look at that one. And then the first thing you're saying is that shouldn't come into the conversation, I've told you to calm down. If that was a penalty offence, penalise them.
Correct.
And warn him properly.
And warn him properly.
I think there's two elements to that. One is it's the rules. We've got to look at the rules, the judgment of too close to the neck, get him off. The second thing is Nick White and his Australian gamesmanship. That was a dead set jump out of there. That was the old Andy Hayden trick, wasn't it? The old jump out. Because that was horrific, mate. He needs to look at himself. That's horrific if you're diving out of there. But the one thing I would say is Dane Coles, when Dane Coles goes into an All Black Test match with a bit of mongrel dog and fires up like he does, this All Black Type 5, this All Black pack is a different thing.
That's exactly the point I was going to bring up. Colsey's job is to be the guy.
Exactly.
He needs to... Kieran Reid's job is to guide the team, to look after... Someone needs to bring that intensity, and Colsey's been doing that for years. He's not going to back down. JK, I'll put my coaching hat on now. Steve Hansen will not be happy with the fact that they've got a red card and a yellow card, consecutive test matches and going to the World Cup. That you can't afford that.
Okay, guys, but I get that. I get that.
He won't be telling Colsey, hey, Colsey, just go a little bit quieter in there. He'll be telling Colsey, get in there, kid, but I don't want the card.
But I get that.
He makes the team.
I get it, Ali, but what I'm trying to say to you is how can you send someone off for close to the neck? So what is our law? Is it neck and head or close to?
Well,
so he sent him off for close to the neck.
And it wasn't even a contact. That's my issue with it as well. You see over-the-shoulder tackles all the time. Because it wasn't even a contact.
But the rule says contact to the neck or head, not close to.
Hey, we agree with you, bud. We're with you. The rule is ridiculous.
Yeah, but this is going to cost someone a World Cup. Hopefully not us.
Hopefully not us.
And that's the issue we've got, because there was another incident up in the Northern Hemisphere at Cardiff where England suffered for the fact that Wales scored a try when literally they were down to 14 men. No one knew what the game was going on. And it was only one try in the game. But anyway, let's move forward now. Let's look at it in regards to the All Blacks. In a couple of weeks, they take on Tonga. We've heard from Steve Hansen. He's talked about whether or not they're going to play a full-strength team. He's indicated that they are in preparation for the Rugby World Cup. All right, Plums, what would you do if Steve Hansen's saying, you know what, I'm going to pick a strong team for this game? Who would you play and why would you play it?
I think he's right. I think he needs to pick a full-strength side or close to, because this is their last hit-out. So there's nothing else. The players want to play. They don't want to do 2 weeks of conditioning. They want another good hit-out. Look, there might be one or two little changes. He might think he might not play Bowden. He might think he's enough footy. Kieran Reid might have had enough footy, so they might give a couple of guys like that a break. But generally, I would say 80% of that team will be there.
But in saying that, JK, the fact that the unknown status right now of Richie Mo'unga means that that combination with Bowden Barrett means that might not be available for that test match. So what change do you make? Does Josh Ioane become a realistic option? Steve Hansen has said that he might play a role. What role is that? Does he start to leave Bowden Barrett at fullback, or does he come off the bench?
Well, I call it the Stephen Donald theory, right? So if Mo'unga is out, what are you going to do in the World Cup? And if it's Bowden, then he's got to play him at 10, Ben Smith back to fullback and make your decisions on the wing, all right? If you're going to stay with this double pivot, then you go, yeah, I'm going to do Josh Ioane and I'm going to bring him in and I'm going to play him because he might get a start. So I personally, I don't know what you think, Plums, but I think it's too much of a risk and I'd go Bowden and Ben Smith.
Yeah, you've got to do Bowden Barrett. You've got to leave him at 10, even though potentially Plumsy might not need the rugby. You've got to do him at 10 because that is your fullback position if Richie's Mo'unga is not playing. And for me, you know, they need more time in the saddle. We can see the improvements. We can see what's happening. They need more time, and you've got to respect Tonga. They're a class outfit.
And also, against Tonga, no disrespect, but they'll be able to get their attacking structures going, get their game going a bit more, and you won't get that in a training run. Yeah,
you may not get that, but all of a sudden, though, are you going to get that type of football at a knockout stage of a Rugby World Cup? And the fact is, I mean, it could be raining in Hamilton. There's all those variables you're looking at. Is there any risk? Are there players that you might protect, JK? You know what? This guy doesn't need. Ardie Savea, for example. Does he need another hit out? Or are they still trying to work on those combinations and just rely on the fact they need the game?
Well, I think there's always risks. There's always risks in everything you do. So if he doesn't play what I would call possibly the not starting lineup, those guys aren't going to play possibly for 5 or 6 weeks, and then you might need them for the final. So that's the risk of playing your top side. The other risk is you could lose any one of the guys that run out. That's just rugby. So you've got to weigh that up.
I don't think they'll be quite happy where they're at the moment. And I think this will be just another little hit out for them, just to get that little, 3 or 4% in every area. We know the line out creaked a little bit. They want to nail a few things that didn't quite nail.
But Plums is the other issue too. We've been able to work our way into the last World Cups, into the third game, which might have been, the last World Cup, can't remember. But this time we got Africa straight up, which is pivotal, right?
We actually played Argentina. We played Argentina in 2015,
they were good too.
And they were good, and we sort of struggled our way through that. So, like you say, the element of timing, you've got that first game, and then the quarter-final is probably going to be their next big game. You take for granted they're going to get through those other ones.
Goldie, we should probably agree with Plums. He's the only one on this panel that's actually still coaching. And
he survived.
Hasn't been fired like you two. So I'm going with Plums' decision on this one, boys.
That's why he's a guest. We can't have too many experts on the show that know more than us, Ellie. We can't have that. OK, there are always going to be players who are going to be unlucky. Now, after the performance of Sonny Bill Williams on the weekend, everyone's starting to say that maybe it's Ngāti Laumapi. And Plums, that's got to be really difficult for you as his coach, who's had such a good year, hasn't let the All Black jersey down at all, and he might be sitting on the outer.
Yeah, and, you know, Ngāti's doing all he can. You know, he's training well. You know, I speak to him regularly. He loves the environment. You know, he just wants to play and get those opportunities. And, you know, he hasn't let the jersey down when he's come off the pitch. And, you know, he's one guy that can just get gain line for you as well. I know you talked about Sonny Bill, but for me, Ngāti can do pretty much it all as well. And he would be a massive. I don't know, you know, it'd be a real letdown for him if he didn't make that squad.
I'm with you, Plums. I think that, and he can also cover wing, right, which gives you a different option. You might want to play him on the wing against one of, you know, Italy or something like that, and have him as a 12-wing cover. I think there's other centres in the side, and possibly an outside that could be under more pressure.
You've always got random theories, though. You're finding a way to get 5 midfielders.
That's why he's coaching on them, not.
Yeah, that's exactly that. That's why it didn't work. The reason we're at the chalkboard is because in 7 days we saw, Ali, a significant turnaround in the All Blacks' performance. And the first thing they talked about was attitude and getting over the advantage line and caring. And on the weekend, they found ways to do that.
Yeah, they did. I think they simplified their game, didn't they? They played a bit more central in terms of the tight forwards, what they were trying to do and how they got into the game. And then they let the space out wide for the loose forwards, giving Dane Coles and the likes a bit more opportunity out wide, you know.
And the advantage line's the key here, isn't it? It's the fact you're trying to get momentum going forward and putting forwards in places where they can make an impact.
Correct. As a forward, that is your sole job, is to get over the advantage line. We see Cody Taylor here using some footwork, had a bit of space, got over that advantage line. Not by much, but what that does is it changes the defensive structure. You see here, all 4 or 5 Australians are on the back foot, and then their eyes are still planted at the bottom, and they're trying to look for the options. But as we see, TJ Perenara, he's been able to come back to the tight forward. Yes, it wasn't a great carry, but it's still centralised them, and it's still given them a platform to now go off and to go wider to create one-on-one battles like this, where Sam Cane can find a loose shoulder, get on over the advantage line, and they can keep playing.
And when the defence is going sideways or hitting holes, it allows you to then all of a sudden create some space, some depth and time, and that's Nipalalala being a distributor, and there are so many more threats.
Yeah, it's because you're playing behind the actual line, so they can look at their options and see what they want to do. And then we come back to the counter-attack.
And transition into, exactly, and this is one of the areas of the game that improved so much for the All Blacks, the fact their return kick game, and it started with our 2 first fives getting back, and there they are. It's Beauden Barrett, Richie Mo'unga holds some defence, George Bridges back. All of a sudden you've got speed, athleticism, and we know when Beauden Barrett has got space and time, he can create. Now this little overlap they created here, Anton Leonard-Brown, the top of your screen, creates a simple 2-on-1, and Ali, mismatches are all outside backs are looking for.
Yeah, as a forward, you don't want an outside back running at you, so you're watching yourself, and we can see here, George Bridges just went straight round him. Great line by the little man and the little pukana before he goes for a dive. That'd be a great photo. I bet you it's above his beard now. But I just love the fact that we saw Beauden Barrett a little bit wider, and when he got the ball, he got that opportunity to survey the defence and make tactical choices like this.
And it looks so simple, doesn't it? The fact there's ability to just drift across one pass, creates that 1-on-1, 2-on-2, the man through the middle, and he scores. And to me, that's the All Blacks at their very best.
Yeah,
find a fractured line.
It makes a forward look so slow. It's so frustrating, this thing.
It's never happened to you in your career?
Oh, no, it happened.
It's happened.
Several times.
The other thing they did really well is they used the short side and they used their ball carriers to once again get momentum.
Yeah, they just kept going back. They kept plugging. So they looked at weaknesses in terms of who they want to make tackles. So you can see Nick White here in the defensive line. They thought, well, how can we work him? They're forcing players to make decisions here. You've got 2 guys eyeing in, and then you've got your winger outside. He has to make a decision on 3 players. He picks Sonny Bill. You've got Anton Leonard-Brown, short ball to Artie Savea, and this is what we want to see. He's a great ball runner. He's in not a lot of space, but he can use his physicality to get over that advantage line.
And he's got such great power, hasn't he? The fact that Kevin Savage, same thing's happened here. Just one pass gives him an opportunity, 1-on-1 with a retiring defence.
Yeah, and he's working his magic. This is the natural talent. This is the flair that the All Blacks have got and individuals have got. And you can give it to Artie, and look, that's 10 metres gained. As I said, the Australians are all facing back. You've got Aaron Smith in there. He's got options now. They can play.
They simplified their structure. They went through the middle of the park. They used the players on the edges to their strengths, and they used their speed. The All Blacks at their very, very best. Don't go away. We've got plenty more to talk about after the break.
Barrett me te whana poto
you, Reece. Reece met the butler. Go away. Go away, Jordy Barrett dribbles it through. Here's Reece. Now, can he win the race? I reckon. What a try.
Wow. How much does this guy entertain you? He just does not die wondering.
Yes, what a weekend it was at Eden Park. And in the first of our double headers, the Black Ferns took on the Wallaroos once again. Captain Les Elder joins us in studio. Welcome back. It's great to have you with us. Of course, when you were here earlier on in the year, we were naming the team, naming the side to play for the Test match season. But let's focus on the weekend. Different challenge. The Wallaroos came to play, and as a team, you had to work through it.
Yeah, definitely. I think from the previous week, they would have been a bit let down around their physicality in the contact area. So they definitely upped the ante in that area, yeah.
Your first season in charge, and have you had a chance now? You've had a couple of days to reflect on the experience of being the captain of this impressive group of young women?
Yeah, yep, I have. Just spent the day yesterday catching up on some life admin, so just sort of winding down a little bit. But yeah, there'll be a bit of a process to go through, I'd say, to review the season, yeah.
We were just talking about the All Blacks being in the red, but I thought the Australian team were, better, but they were niggly. But the loose forwards, I thought, were like 5 times better. Their loose forwards.
Yeah.
Still outplayed them. You guys played well, but they brought some niggle, we thought.
Yeah.
Ellie and I were going...
He actually loved that part of the game.
The hooker, the Australian hooker, she was right into it. It wasn't that great, but she was right into it. It was fantastic. I loved it. But it was really interesting because you didn't back down, and it was... I'd say it was probably more physical than the All Blacks match in terms of off the ball.
Any shot at the Wallabies you can take, right?
I just
agree with you.
I just loved the way you just jab them back. It was just magic.
But did you notice that intensity on the field?
Yeah, definitely. And I think for us, we kind of allowed the niggle to get to us, whereas a message was pretty clear that if we just play well, then we'll take that away from them and kind of shut them up. But we let it slip a little bit, but I guess the girls did really well to absorb some of that pressure and come back in the second half.
And I know you had high expectations on some improvements. Glenn said, you know, we want to see a better, faster defence line. So did you tick off those? I just thought they were better, but you guys were still good. But did you tick off those things you wanted to improve on? Were you happy when you walked off?
I think that first half we started really slow, and so we weren't really happy with how the first half went. The girls did well to come back in the second half, but I still think we've left a lot out there.
And what'd you do?
I did my MCL, so yeah.
Well, at least it's not an ACL.
Yeah.
You know, you should be a few weeks, you'll be back into it.
Yeah.
How did the team look at playing in the double header in terms of playing before the All Blacks? You know, the sort of added responsibility, a bigger crowd, bigger games. Did they enjoy it, or did they? Was it a burden, or what was that like?
Oh, definitely not a burden. It's the I think 3rd year that we've done this, so the girls are getting used to it and they're loving it. Yeah. Obviously, the All Blacks are our rugby idols as well, so to be able to play a double header and play before them and open the gates is pretty exciting. They love it.
Let's talk where you started from. The Super Series, you go up to America, you're up against the best teams in the world. Yeah. How did you look back at that series and go, you know what, this is where we were at as a team at the end of it? And did you see progress? And for some of your younger players, was it a big step up, and did they respond?
Yeah, we definitely seen progress. I think a lot of learnings taken from the loss to France that really made us look and reflect a little bit. But then the fire that created leading into the England game was really good. And on the back of that, we just got better, I thought. Yeah, the girls are up for it, definitely.
From a player's point of view, on the Super Series, did you find it hard playing those 4 or 5 games?
Sorry?
On the Super Series, did you find it hard playing those 4 or 5 games in a row? Like, as a player, I know Jeff couldn't have done it. I know that JK couldn't have done it.
Thanks, mate.
And I definitely know that I couldn't have done it, and it would have been an absolute nightmare. So for me, I wonder how the girls handled it.
Yeah, the 4-day turnarounds were extremely tough, and a lot of time was spent on recovery. It was extremely hot over there as well, so we had to factor that in. But we had a good plan around that. The medical team worked really well, and the S&C team, and we just got on with it. All teams had to deal with the same conditions.
Yeah, nice.
So who's your biggest rival? You've played most of them now. So if you were saying we're number one, who's a clear number two? Obviously, Australia, I think, is going to be good. They've got a young side, but who are you going, well, we played them tomorrow, we'd be up against it?
Probably the French.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a massive rivalry between the Black Ferns and England, but the French seem to be a team that really test us.
And where have they got so much better over time, that French team?
I think it's just their awareness of the game and their rugby knowledge. They've got a really good kicking game as well, which is an improvement in women's game right across all the countries. But they're just, typical French rugby, unorthodox and hard to really know what they're going to do.
When you're developing talent and you're having to do that to compete against the best teams in the world, and you have players coming in your environment, whether it be sevens or just the fact moving on, Ruahei Demont this year seems as though she really started to find her feet. The fact she seemed to take control of that. And how has she grown as an individual, given the responsibility at first five?
She's grown heaps, and I mean, Lou's a really intelligent player, and she's a lawyer as well, so just an intelligent person. But we gave her a bit of responsibility, and we backed her as a game driver, and as a leadership group tried to empower her, which I thought really showed in the Aussie series.
The thing that interests me now is, I think the female game has shown so much growth in the last 12 to 18 months. Fantastic. I mean, are you, as Black Ferns, talking about going back now to your provinces and setting the standard and lifting the standards? I mean, we're starting this week, provincial, not easy sometimes to go back, but if you've spoken about, it's now our job to keep this growth going, set the standards, keep our standards up.
Yeah, 100%. That was the final message that GM sent out, or Glenn sent out, before we departed on Sunday. And it's part of our kawa as well, our protocols within our team, is that it's our job to grow the game and to be a Black Fern 24/7. So representing in your clubs and in your provinces.
And that Farah Cup is getting more and more competitive, more and more teams coming in. And for you, do you start seeing another layer of talent below it?
Yeah, and I mean, I work in rugby, so I'm on the ground with them all the time. There's some talent coming through, which is awesome. And, we've seen a whole lot of girls debut this year as well. So the depth pool is just, it's getting deeper, which is great for our game.
Are you going to be able to get back out there, given your injury? Are you going to have to take some time off? What does that mean for you?
Yeah, I'll be back.
You'll be back? There's no problems? There's never any question about that? I mean, for you, if you're looking at it and the fact that the game has started to go professional, it's still semi-professional because the majority of you are carrying jobs. Where would you like to see it go right now?
I think we're really grateful in terms of the progress that's happening on a daily basis, but I think it's definitely... it would be awesome to go full-time. As the schedule and the calendar increases, the demands on girls to be able to maintain the balance is becoming quite hard. So that would be awesome to see.
Do you see players chasing the 15s dream now, maybe a little bit more than the 7s? Because that looked as though that was the initial pathway. But now it seems as though players are looking at it going, you know what, I can make the most of that opportunity in the wider game?
Yeah, I think so. I think... sevens there's still heaps of interest, and a lot of new girls into rugby start with sevens, which is really cool. But I think for 15s, it caters for all types of athletes. So we probably get, it's seen more pleasurably to other people as well.
Well, we're looking forward to it, as always. The Farah Cup, it kicks off in, I think, not this weekend, the weekend after, Steph, and a couple of double headers that are coming up and plenty to look forward to.
Yes, we do, yep. Both of the games are double headers and both are being played live on Sky Sport 1, which is great, so don't miss those. Now, Kendra Cocksedge got presented her 50th Test cap at halftime during the All Blacks game over the weekend by Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern. Now, Kendra actually played her 50th Test during the Super Series, but they wanted to celebrate her at home in front of a home crowd, which is awesome, and so they should. Check it out.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's an honour to have the opportunity to acknowledge Kendra Cocksedge tonight. She is an exceptional player, playing her first match in the Black Ferns jersey at just the young age of 19. She has, of course, participated in World Cups, winning in 2010, 2017. She was World Cup Rugby Player of the Year and, of course, the first woman to win New Zealand Rugby Player of the Year. 50 Test matches is an incredible achievement. Kendra, You are not just an incredible athlete, you are a role model to young Kiwis, particularly to young women in this game. Congratulations on 50 incredible matches and for being such a wonderful rep. You've got it on.
Thank you. First of all, I just want to thank you all for coming down to watch us today. It's awesome to have such great support, so that's the first thing I want to say. Thank you to the Prime Minister for giving up your time. It's a pretty special moment for me to receive my cap from you. Also grateful to be able to share this moment with my family who have travelled up from Taranaki today. I can't do something like this by myself. The support that they've given me, you know, my rock, they do everything for me. So I just want to thank you guys for everything that you've done. I also want to put out there, I started playing rugby when I was 4 years old. So for any young girl out there, put on the boots, go out there and live the dream that I get to live. But thank you very much, and playing 50 games in the Black Ferns jersey is grateful. Thank you very much.
Yeah, congratulations to Kendra. Thanks for Les coming in and covering us off. And of course, the Black Ferns season, and a great way to finish it was at Eden Park. It's time now for us to continue our eye on the north. And of course, Wales are now the #1 team in the world, and it didn't take long for one of them to call us. Scott Quinnell took every opportunity to get on the phone. He now wants to tell us exactly why you are now hot favourites to go on and win the Rugby World Cup in Japan. Is that what you believe now, mate?
Well, of course it is. When you have a look at, first of all, good morning from the UK and good evening in New Zealand. Yes, well, the All Blacks have been #1 for so long. I was reading this morning that Game of Thrones hadn't even started the last time anybody else was #1 in the world. So it's a sign. It's a sign. I tell you what, we were happy. Was it a week before last when you lost to Australia? For 27 hours, we were unofficially the #1 side in the world. Now it's official. The party has started, my friend.
Scott, it's JK here.
I love that jacket. I love it. You're
Thanks,
celebrating Wales #1 day. Look at
exactly. That's why I've worn it. That's why I've worn it, because Wales is #1. So, but do you think seriously? And congratulations, mate. I know what a proud nation Wales is. But do you think Gats wants this just before a World Cup? I mean, Eddie Jones has already lined him up and said, you know, you're the target for everyone. So do you actually need that going into a World Cup?
You know what, boys, JK, it's one of those things where you take it when it comes. You know, I think everybody in World Rugby, when they saw New Zealand beat Australia 36-0, and then we beat England by 7 points, and then we become #1 in the world. Everybody sort of went, "Ooh, is that right?" You know, we took it. Absolutely brilliant. I think it's testament to the players, what they've done over the last couple of years. 14 wins on the bounce, 15 of the 16, and what Gats and his coaching team are doing. And it's lovely for the fans. 3.3 million people woke up on Monday morning with a smile on their face, but they know realistically that, you know.
And a hangover.
Yeah, hangover on Sunday.
You're still the best side in the world, but don't tell anybody.
Hey, Scotty, it's John Plumtree. Just a quick one. Do you think Gats will be happy with their preparation, you know, the last 5-6 weeks? Has he had them in heat camps? Has he had them, you know, obviously the 2 games against England? I presume he's got another one coming up this week. Do you think, you know, with injuries, et cetera, do you think he'll be happy with the place the Welsh team will be at by the time they get to Japan?
Yeah, I'd be absolutely delighted. When you have a look at the preparation that they put in, they train through this period like I think most sides in the world are doing at the moment. They train it through this period because they're stepping stones to the bigger picture. They've been to Switzerland for 2-week hot weather and altitude training camp. If I went to Switzerland 10 years ago, I'd have just come back about half a stone heavier eating Toblerone. You know, and they're incredibly fit. They got to Turkey now. They've got hot weather. It's over 40 degrees in Turkey. They're down there for a week now, and then they come back, and then they play Ireland back-to-back, home and away. So the preparations couldn't be going any better. The difficulty is we've lost Gareth Anscombe, who was playing well at 10. So that would damn big man of the match in the weekend. But then you look at a strength in depth. And of course, we lost one of the, I think, world great forwards in Talupe Faletau, who's unfortunately out of the tournament as well. So yes, they'll be absolutely delighted. Oh, look, you showed this again. I've got a smile. Can you see the smile on my face? It's absolutely wonderful. Just watch this. What's Ken Owen's reaction to this? Oh, he's behind. George North just nips in and takes his try. As a hooker, he was absolutely gutted for that one. But in good shape, in good place.
Scott, Ali Williams here, mate. Hey, just from us down here, who do you think's the biggest threat up in the Northern Hemisphere? You think England's tracking pretty well, and you know the likes of Ireland and definitely Scotland, they look unbelievable against the French in the weekend?
Oh yeah, well, surprisingly, right? Doesn't matter what happens in World Rugby. Every 4 years, the French turn up, and they get into camp and they spend time together, and they are looking incredibly strong at the moment. They're looking like a side that has real potential. I think Ireland, if they can keep a couple of the boys fit, Carberry was injured again on the weekend. If they can keep their squad fit, they can be a real threat. And I think England, in fairness to them, they're building nicely. I think Eddie Jones has rested a lot of his key players. He brought a couple of farmers on the bench. George was on the bench. He bring a couple of guys back into the squad. They got pace to burn behind now. So yeah, behind obviously Wales, who was number 1, and New Zealand number 2. Then the rest of them have got a chance.
You do realise that the last Rugby World Cup, Scotty, that the 4 semi-finalists were the 4 Southern Hemisphere teams. Are you aware of that? And the fact, are we looking at this Rugby World Cup and everyone's talking about it? Do you see it being the closest we've had for a long time?
Jeff, you know the score. You come over here. You've travelled a long way. We don't want you just to go home disappointed. So, New Zealand, Australia finals. I was there. Wonderful. Dan Carter, just absolutely incredible that day. So it's one of those where when we come down to Japan, we hope that you reciprocate. You all go out early and just leave us get on with it.
Do you not feel as though you took advantage of a situation on the weekend where England were disadvantaged by the fact they hadn't had their man off the field? You guys a quick tap. England weren't even ready for it. I mean, and do you think this was a yellow card, really? Would you like to see a game influenced significantly like this if it wasn't in your favour?
Totally. You have a look at that. I don't care how they scored, as long as they scored. You have a look at that. It was a yellow card. He was coming round. He managed to slap it down, and it was well taken. I thought the guys are thinking outside the box. They've done particularly well. Who in World Rugby? You're told as an 11-year-old, whatever happens, if there's a penalty, don't turn your back. And unfortunately, England did on the weekend.
I've never seen... Could you kick any one-eyed? You couldn't be any more one-eyed than... You're more almost like a Crusaders fan, let's be honest. Hey, mate, Scotty, hey, we're stoked for you, to be honest, we are. We're proud of the fact you are number 1 in the world.
Totally. Hey, I've been down to New Zealand enough times to know that we're very much alike.
Mate, we wish you the best of luck. We honestly do. Thanks very much for joining us. We look forward to having a chat to you again at some point, hopefully through the Rugby World Cup. We were both going so very well.
Keep the phones on, guys.
Yes, mate. Do you think he realises, Jeff, that for that last 10 minutes we all listened to him, that no one actually understood him? One, he's still hungover, and 2, his accent is horrific.
But even then, he's still entertaining.
Oh, they're
he's still entertaining.
We love
celebrating his style.
I love the accent.
Yeah, we love him. Absolutely. Well, a year ago to the day, New Zealand Rugby lost one of its very, very greats. Sir Colin Meads passed away. We took the opportunity to go to his hometown of Te Kuiti and celebrate his life on the rugby field.
We're in Te Kuiti and we're at the Gallagher Meads Brothers exhibition. The exhibition idea had been floated some years ago, and then when we started working towards the statue project for Colin, I just thought, yes, we can do an exhibition. I think he thought we were a little bit crazy, but he was supportive. He did get to see this before he passed away, and he was sitting in here with our family. And I asked him what he thought. I was a little bit nervous, and he just looked at me and he said, it's bloody terrific. We've had incredible feedback, and we've had people from all over the world visit. I think people thoroughly enjoy being in here, reading about him and Stan, their rugby days, their farming days. We've got rugby balls. We've got a lot of photographs from when he was playing. We've got a clock that his All Black teammates gave him when he played 100 games, and he loved that. Here we've got Colin and Stan's All Black gear bags. This was used by our family as the docking bag, and it was down in our implement shed, absolutely covered in mud and other farm stuff. This is Colin's first All Black jersey from 1957. It's the only jersey our family has of his because he just gave everything away. This is Colin's diary from the 1967 tour. There is one page that we did laugh about. It's the day Colin was sent off at Murrayfield, and he's written, "Sent off, got drunk." He just loved Teakwiti. It was his home. No matter where he was in the world, it was just all about this town.
Because it was amateur then, and when Dad went away, the community would get behind and help. You know, Dad would be away from the farm, they'd help him. So he just felt really privileged to be, you know, the community be behind him.
He loved Teakwiti. He'd do anything for Teakwiti. Statue brings a lot of people into town. Colin's hardly ever alone. There's always people there taking photographs. Early in the morning, late at night. It's really lovely.
We'd seen the one of Michael Jones at Eden Park. Natalie Stamiller was the artist who created that. She was fascinated. She studied Collins to find out what was the right message, and of course holding the ball in one hand and the giant stride. No one called him Sir. You called him Plumtree or Colin. Just a passionate man. And probably what people didn't see was the family man. He adored his children and his grandchildren. He was just an ordinary man in the street. That's all he wanted to be. He didn't want to be anything special, but he was special in what he did for New Zealand. We'll always remember what he's done. He was a legendary man.
Yeah, welcome back. Well, of course, this weekend there is no Test match rugby. The focus goes well and truly on the Mitre 10 Cup. I'm going to ask you, Plums, you're putting together a squad, you're looking forward to next year for the Hurricanes, you're still in search of the odd player, and what's the standard been like already?
Yeah, been pretty good. You're looking at some of the teams. Tasman looking really good. Hawke's Bay playing some good rugby. Auckland playing some good rugby. So, yeah, no, the standard's been really high. Seen some really good young players coming through, some young backs at Waikato, some young backs in the Bay. So, yeah, it's been good to watch, actually. So,
you getting your claws on any of them?
Yeah, look, I mean, no, I haven't been going. No, actually, we'll start, though. We'll start. We've got a few players to get, so we'll...
That Tasman side could just about play in the Super.
Yeah.
It's stacked, right?
It's stacked.
What position do you need, Plums, just out of interest, from a Blues player?
Let's move on before he goes into that. Let's go to the good, the bad and the ugly of Mitre 10 Cup over the weekend. We'll start with the good, and JK, we're looking for talent. Plums has talked about it, and for Tasman, they're a stacked side and they've got players who can create some great things and score wonderful tries.
Watch this. So I was watching this and I thought, wow, how good is this? Just look, and then I looked at it twice and I didn't know whether I was going to... No, this is good, right? But I didn't know if I was going to be the good or the bad. So the good is this, and the bad is these guys tackle like me. Look at that. That's a Canterbury team. But that's a great try.
No, he's got hands on him. He got hands on him. Yeah, he tackles way.
He thought it was touch, and he thought it was tackle. But that's... I love Mitre 10 for this. There is still that little bit of freedom, Plums, where people are just playing footy. So that was my good.
The bad, Ali, happened for me in the Hawke's Bay.
Yeah, the bad. I mean, that was bad, Canterbury defence, but it was actually good also. Hawke's Bay, I mean, look, it's all tied up. And
there was some really good stuff here, though, right?
Some great tries, and you would have been impressed with some of the Wellington boys there, Plums. But, you know, we're playing an adventurous type of rugby. We're trying to attack. You score a try here. You know, you're sitting there and you think, right, let's go for the other try. And a conservative-natured new age rugby team in Hawke's Bay goes for the points. It's ridiculous.
A draw.
A draw. What do we think?
I think they fairness to them, I think they got 3 points out of that game. I think they might have been happy with the fact that they got got 3.
You've got to be bold. It's a sprint. Try and get the 5.
Correct.
Try and get the 5.
They
Steph?
definitely didn't want to lose to Wellington, though.
No, true. To be fair, you don't want to lose. Steph, and you've got the ugly.
I've got the ugly this week, and it was in the Taranaki Manawatu game in Palmy North. Check out the conditions of this field. That is horrific.
That's nasty. As the Hurricanes coach, I expected you were there, Plums?
I sent my assistants that day.
Oh, the assistants.
Goldie, right. We had a hamstring just before.
Oh, just
we had a hamstring in the warm-up.
Yeah, there's no point me playing in that. No point whatsoever. What impact can I have on that game? None whatsoever. None at all.
That's why Adidas issue you budgie smugglers every year, just in case that wet condition comes out, mate. You've got the appropriate...
All right, quickly the notice board with you, Steph.
Off to the notice board this week, and first up we've got the Kiwi Bank Pacifica Challenge. That's happening on August 31st. Get your tickets from ticketmaster.co.nz. And as we said earlier, the Farah Palmer Cup, we've got a double header on the 31st of August as well. And then we also have the All Blacks versus Tonga game, but the curtain raiser to that game is the Baba Legends playing the Pacific Legends, and that is the game that Carlos Spencer is playing in and that Ali did not get the call-up for.
Ali is unavailable once again.
That could be a selection match for Carlos for 10 at...
The Hurricanes.
He's in.
All right, we've got the kick-off coming up on Thursday night. This course, the Mitre 10 Cup as well. Thanks very much as well, Ali, JK, Plums. Thanks for joining us. We're looking forward to joining you next week. Plenty for us to look forward to. Thursday night, Hawke's Bay take on Otago. Go for the win, someone. We'll see you next week.